Right. Well, I'm sure we'll still have some more people trickling in here, but we'll go ahead and get started. So, as I've said, thank you everybody for joining us. My name is Kyle Kite. For those of you that don't know me, I am an investment advisor representative here at Klaas Financial. With me today is Nate Bribey, who, again, some of you may know, he's another advisor in our office. We also have Louisa James on the call today. So some of you that have worked with her in the past remember her from Monarch. She's actually out on her own now, which she'll give us a rundown on that in just a second. But Nate, why don't you go ahead and give a kind of an intro to Klaas Financial, or Klaas U program that this is, and that kind of stuff.
Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. Nate Bribey here with Klaas, like Kyle said. For those of you who aren't clients, just a little background on Klaas Financial. Founded in 1976, so this is the 47th year in business. Offices in 2 states here in Rockford and also up in Madison, Wisconsin. We serve over 1,000 different households in 31 different states across the country. So we focus on retirement planning, being probably the biggest area in financial planning as a whole. Dealing with helping people retire successfully and on their own terms and all that fun stuff. One of the biggest things that comes up for our retirees and early retirees would be health insurance planning. And obviously that's what we're talking today with Medicare and Louisa. And, one of the areas of the financial planning process that we do like to have good partners, such as Louisa, to be able to help our clients fill that important need in their financial plan. So, at Klaas Financial, our advisors like to be leading that process and bringing in other professionals where it makes sense to build out the financial plan for our clients. So we're very excited to have Louisa kind of go through all the fun details of Medicare and all these good questions that come up.
Yeah. And before we turn it over to Louisa, just so everyone's aware, we are going to be recording this webinar here, so it will get posted on our website. It can take us up to a week or so before we get it posted, so don't go looking for it tomorrow. It takes a little bit of time. There is a Q&A box down at the bottom of your screen, so we're not going to open it up for questions, live questions right now. We will at the end. But if you have a question as Louisa's going through her slides here, you can either enter it in that Q&A down at the bottom. You can click on that and it'll pull up a box, or there is a chat box down there too that you can ask a question in, or you can raise your hand. So there's about 3 different ways that you can get our attention. Myself and Nate will be checking the Q&A throughout the presentation, and we'll get Louisa's attention if somebody does come up with a good question. So with all that, Louisa, go ahead and give us an introduction and a rundown, please.
All right. Thank you guys so much for letting me share here. I really appreciate it. I'm Louisa James with Northern Star Insurance Advisors. I've been in the insurance industry for a little over 10 years. And I am an independent insurance advisor, which just means that I can work with all of the major companies out there, and I specialize in health insurance and Medicare insurance. So today's seminar is Medicare 101. I know I can be very long-winded on this topic because there's so much to go through. So I'm gonna really try to be succinct here and keep it very Medicare 101. But I know there will be question and answer. Feel free to ask anything that you have a question on, or I definitely, go through specific things for individuals later on too. So with that, again, Louisa James, I am born and raised in Rockford, Illinois, and my office is based out of Rockford, Illinois, although I'm licensed in many different states. So we can work across the country here. And I'm married to my wonderful husband, Jonathan, who kind of does a lot of the back office stuff for this office, does a lot of our marketing and website and stuff that I don't really want to do. And we have 2 awesome little kids. Wyatt is almost 3 now, and Mia is 6 months. So busy, fun life. So with that, kind of jump into our Medicare. There we go. And starting with when does Medicare start? Really, people are entitled to Medicare at age 65, or in some exceptions where they've been on Social Security disability for 2 years. But for most people, it will start at age 65, or that's when you're eligible for it. So with that too, I get the question a lot, is there a penalty if I don't sign up for Medicare when I turn 65? Because there's a lot of people these days who are working past 65, they're on their employer plan, they don't necessarily want to get off, or they're on a spouse's employer plan. So there's a lot of cases where no, you wouldn't be penalized if you have an employer plan, and specifically that employer, it has over 20 employees in it. But for the rest of the population, most everyone who does turn 65 has to take that Medicare at that time, otherwise you will be penalized for delaying it. And going into the case where someone does delay Medicare and doesn't necessarily take it right at age 65, be it they want to keep working and be on an employer plan, or again, like on a spouse's plan, if they have a really good deal with that. If you don't know if it's a good deal or not, I will be happy to go through and compare plans as well. But for someone who does delay going on to Medicare past age 65, there's called a special enrollment period. And so when you're getting ready to retire or lose your group benefits, you'll be open to a special enrollment period to apply for Medicare and not get that penalty for it. Let's see here. So that brings me to, how do I sign up for Medicare? Which in the past, there's been kind of more lengthy time to do that, with maybe going down to the Social Security office, or dealing with people on the phone via Social Security. I think they've made it a lot quicker to do that. Signing up for Medicare is done through the Social Security Administration, but you can go online now and do that via the ssa.gov website. And right on the front page, they've made it fairly easy to find. This is a copy of the front page of the Social Security website, and we go right to sign up for Medicare. Since it is the same website that people can go to sign up for their Social Security benefits, you don't have to at that time, but you can. It used to be a little more like you had to dig and find the Medicare application within the Social Security and all that. Now they really have made it apply for my Social Security benefits, or sign up for Medicare, or do each at the same time if you want to. So it's pretty straightforward. The application itself, maybe don't time yourself, but maybe takes between like 5 and 10 minutes as well. So, and that too, if anyone does need help, I can definitely assist. By the Social Security Administration has made this a little more streamlined than it has been in the past.
So, Louisa, will it prompt you, say you click on sign up for Medicare and they're not enrolled in Social Security yet? Will it prompt them to do that? I'm just curious, or worried that people may, if we suggest they delay their Social Security benefits, will it, prompt them to, because you'll get into Part B premiums and how that's paid for and stuff, but just curious.
Yeah, it will prompt them. There are 2 separate applications, whether to apply for your Social Security benefits or to apply for Medicare.
Okay.
So they are 2 separate applications, which is a great question, because I get a lot, well, I'm going onto the SSA.gov website. I don't want to apply for Social Security benefits yet. No, you'll get a prompting, definitely. And actually, to apply for Social Security benefits, and you guys probably know this too, that they'll get a lot more questions. It'll be a lot lengthier application than to just sign up for Medicare.
Sure.
So, and then in the case of, good point too, if someone is already taking their Social Security benefits, usually about 3 months before you turn 65, you'll get your Medicare card automatically because you're already in the system. And it'll be up to you if you want to keep that and just take it at 65 or delay that. Again, in the case if you're on an employer sponsored plan and that one makes sense more than Medicare, and it's a qualified plan. So, and then you can reapply for it at the time that you lose your group benefits too. So again, another plug, I guess, for having an independent advisor work with you on determining what makes more sense in your individual situation. So, we're going into signing up for Medicare. Medicare, I'm entitled to it at age 65. What does it cover? Medicare is made up of two parts, A and B. A is the, I'll just say, hospital side of things. B is the more medical doctor side of things. Think like outpatient. Listed here some of the main things that A and B cover. A is, again, more inpatient hospital care, skilled nursing, short-term nursing home care, not long-term care, home health care, hospice. Part B is more your outpatient wellness exam, lab tests, medical equipment, blood work, x-rays, that sort of thing. So, there's a big thick book that you'll get as you get closer to Medicare, that's called Medicare and You, that lists out all these Medicare approved expenses, and it's pretty comprehensive. But just kind of, I like to condense it down to Medicare A and B cover roughly 80% of your hospital and medical expenses. So where I come in is help fill in the gaps, the other 20% of hospital and medical, anything outside of that, like pharmacy, drugs, dental, vision, that sort of stuff. A little bit on, kind of going back to Medicare A and B. Part A, let's see. I thought that was on the next slide. Part A, again, is your hospital care that you have usually paid into through your working years. So there's no premium involved in that, unless, again, you haven't met your 10 working quarters between, 40 working quarters between you and your spouse. And there's I'll go into that in our next slide here. But B, there is a premium for, which we'll get right into in one of the next slides as well.
We had a question come through, Louisa, real quick. So, so even if you get your card 3 months before you are 65, you still have to sign up for Medicare, correct?
So if you've gotten your card already automatically, you do not need to sign up for Medicare. That's a good question. So kind of two different scenarios here. If you've already gotten your Medicare card, it's usually because you've already drawing Social Security and you just got it automatically. Well, you don't have to go and sign up for it. So you get to bypass that hoop. if you are not drawing Social Security, that's where you need to go and initiate it online.
Louisa, in that scenario, they would be automatically enrolled in A and B.
They have to select A and B.
No, I'm sorry, if they claimed at 62 their Social Security and they were automatically enrolled at 65, what parts, I guess?
Yes,
Can you go into
you're
that?
automatically enrolled in A and B if you're drawing Social Security.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Another way to think about this is if you're pulling your Social Security before 65, once you get onto Medicare A and B, your Social Security is going to get reduced by the Medicare Part B premium that Louisa is going to talk about in a second too. So
that's correct. Yep. Thanks for clarifying. I was getting a little ahead of myself. I'm like, I have a slide for that. I probably should have had it right after the intro to A and B. We'll definitely get into that. So I covered, what does Medicare itself cover in general, that hospital and medical side of things, but what does it not cover? Long-term care, most dental care, anything routine vision wise. And I go into eye exams related to prescribing glasses, dentures, cosmetic surgery, acupuncture, hearing aids, and routine foot care. Most other things Medicare does cover. Again, in this Medicare and You book that you get when you go on to Medicare, it has a whole list of the Medicare approved expenses. But I like to show this list of things that it does not cover, because those are pieces that you have to pay out of pocket or get something supplemental to fill in the gaps. Okay, so to our Medicare A and B costs, which again, I probably should have put before those, but Medicare A, again, the hospital side of things, if you've met your 40 working quarters, which roughly, about 10 years of working, even on a very part-time basis, then you've paid into Medicare for your Part A specifically. As I get the question a lot, well, I've paid into Medicare. Why do I don't have to pay a premium? Well, typically Part A has been paid for. There's no premium involved. And if you have not met your 40 working quarters, there is a graduated premium here. But most everybody has to pay for Part B, which is the, again, kind of doctor outpatient side of things. And for most people this year in 2023, that standard amount is $164.90 a month. And to Kyle's point about, if you're already drawing Social Security and you get your Medicare card, you're going to see that $164.90 come automatically out of your Social Security check when you turn 65 and go on to Medicare. Part B can be more depending on your income between you if you're single, or you and your spouse if you're married and filing jointly. It's called an income related monthly adjustment. Basically it's based off of your income from the past 2 years. So you can see in this, I actually should have brought my pen tool here. There we go. You can see in this grid here, the standard amount is $164.90, but it can go up depending on your income from 2 years ago. You can see 2021 if you're going on to Medicare in 2023.
And Louisa, can you talk about that's just for that calendar year, right? In 24, it would be based on 22's income. And if it has changed up or down, that could reset that premium potentially.
That's correct. Yep. So each year it's so that particular year is based off of 2 years prior. So 2024 would be based off of 2022, 2025 would be based off of this year, and so on. And, you know, I come across the case a lot where people are retiring and their income no longer is that amount or that higher amount that it was 2 years ago. Well, there is a potential to appeal that. There's a specific form that we can make sure that people have too, that lets Medicare know basically that you know, maybe my income was 300,000, but now it's no longer that because I'm retired or whatever the case is. So there is potential to bring that back down to the standard amount depending on your situation, especially because again, it was 2 years ago. It's not my income anymore. So.
Louisa, how about if they're not claiming Social Security and they enroll for Part B? How would they pay those monthly premiums?
Good question. So they will get a bill and it'll be billed quarterly. It does come with a form that allows you to set it up on like a monthly bank draft if you want to, but the very first one comes as a quarterly bill. You can keep paying it that way. And then once you draw in Social Security, then that will automatically start coming out of your Social Security check monthly. So my next thing here. So I went over a little bit what is, you know, Medicare is made up of parts A and B. And again, there's lots of deductibles, copay, co-insurance involved with, you know, the gaps of A and B. So I just say roughly 80% of hospital and medical expenses are covered by A and B. So where I come in is fill in those gaps. And I know there's a whole big alphabet soup out there. You've heard A and B and C and D and all of that. My goal is to try to organize that and make it understandable for everybody. So how do I fill in the gaps that Medicare doesn't cover? Well, there's two main ways you can do that. Anyone who is going to be turning 65 in this next year probably already knows you get tons of mailers and calls and they just don't stop. I have family members who have, you know, brought me these big stacks like this and saying, is this normal? I'm like, yeah, pretty much. I don't know how they get your info, but they do. You can take all of those and you can put them into like really one of two piles. The first one is on the left here, original Medicare with a Medicare supplement, or sometimes called a Medigap plan. And then the other way is a Medicare Advantage plan, also called Part C. So I always say they're two good options, just different. It's going to be dependent on each individual on what's going to be better for them. And again, disclaimer on this is just a general educational seminar. I'm going to go over some of the basics and the differences of those plans, but I can't go over specific pricing and companies and stuff like that per Medicare rules. So let's see here. Okay, so to start with the Medicare supplements, again, another a term you'll hear for that same exact thing is a Medigap plan. They're the same thing. Medicare supplement or Medigap often looks like this, where Medicare A and B covers roughly 80% of the hospital medical expenses. And then the supplement is meant to cover the other 20% of Medicare approved expenses. So again, on that, back to that list of things that Medicare doesn't cover, a couple of those are in your pharmacy, drugs, dental, and vision. So that's why these are separate little bubbles in this picture. The Medicare supplement covers the other 20% of Medicare approved expenses. And included in that, Medicare will cover drugs while you're in the hospital, a lot of your expensive injections or infusions while you're in the doctor's office, but it will not cover your pharmacy drugs, your maintenance drugs that you pick up at a pharmacy. So that is under a separate Part D, as in drug plan. And then Medicare does not cover dental in most cases. So that is a separate, albeit optional piece as well. And then Medicare doesn't cover routine vision. So basically anything at an optometrist's office, as far as like your annual exam to read the eye chart, eyewear, glasses, contacts, Medicare typically doesn't cover that. It will cover anything at an eye specialist, anything like major medical, like a cataract surgery, glaucoma treatment, something like that, just not routine vision. So this is one way to fill in those gaps, is with multiple pieces. Oops, did I miss my, there we go. And kind of in a little bit more into the Medicare supplements, watching my time here, I promise you I try to be very here. Medicare supplements, they're all labeled by letters, as if we don't have enough with the A, B, and D and all that. These Medicare supplements, we have kind of the most popular plans here, although there are others. I just go over kind of the main ones. Plan F, G, and N are, I'll just say, the most popular right now. F just means that all of the Medicare covered things are covered 100%. So if it's a Medicare approved expense, Medicare pays their roughly 80%, and then the Plan F covers the rest. That means you don't have any copays, no deductibles, nothing left over for Medicare approved expenses. Although a lot of anybody who turned 65 after like 2020 and later can't get Plan F anymore, but it's not that big of a deal because Plan G is right behind it. Just very, very similar. The only other thing it doesn't cover is the Part B deductible, which just means this year it's a $226 annual deductible. So that's it, everything combined. And in most cases, the premiums are lower for Plan G than they are Plan F. So.
Louisa, I know you can't give like specific companies or anything like that, but do you have like a range of like a female that's turning 65, what a Plan G would look like for someone like that?
Yep. So for, again, a female turning 65, roughly like 90 to $100 a month typically.
Okay.
It could be anywhere in there. Usually men are about $10 more a month.
Okay.
You know, just depending on the company, but yeah, roughly right in there for a G specifically.
G, yeah. And then how about like a prescription plan? I know those vary depending on drugs and things like that, but if you're not somebody that takes any fancy drugs, it's just blood pressure and cholesterol, that kind of stuff. What is some of those basic ones from?
Yeah, so the Part D drug plan, those range anywhere from actually 0 to $100 a month, anywhere in there. More average, you're looking at like $5 to $20 a month in average plan.
Right.
Now, which, you know, goes into Part D. I'll first start with, I have a lot of people who don't take prescription drugs and wonder if they need to get a Part D plan if they're getting the supplement. And I usually say yes, for two reasons. One is you can only get these Part D plans during open enrollment if you don't get it at your initial enrollment period. And open enrollment is at the end of the year. So if you're added on some expensive prescriptions mid-year, you're just kind of out of luck until you can get that Part D plan again. And the other reason is if you don't get a qualified drug plan when you're first eligible for Medicare, and then you later get it, you're tacked on a penalty for every month that you went without. It starts off fairly small, but it adds up. It can add up very quickly. So usually just say, even if you're not taking anything or you have a couple of low cost generics that you use GoodRx for or something, it makes sense to get a Part D plan in most cases. Let's maybe just get a $5 plan instead or something. We can always switch it at open enrollment. So, I'm not going to go over the donut hole. That's a whole nother conversation, but you'll hear maybe some friends or family members who say, I hit the donut hole this year. That's really in the case of where they're taking some really expensive medications originally, and the cost can fluctuate. There have been some legislative changes that have played a factor in this. So if that is anyone's case where they're taking some pretty expensive, like especially brand name drugs or anything you see an advertisement for, that's something we'll probably want to review and see if you're on the plan that makes the most sense. So, flipping over to our other option, Advantage plans. Again, I said there's pros and cons to each, and I will kind of recap with those, but Medicare Advantage plan is more of a bundled plan rather than those different pieces that I just went through. A few characteristics of them. They have a network, unlike a Medicare supplement where you can just use anywhere that they take Medicare, which is the majority of the doctors in the country. A Medicare Advantage plan is usually an HMO or a PPO, and they have a network. I'll be honest, I'm a pretty big fan of the PPOs. I think I can say there's lots of pretty good ones in our area and, in Wisconsin as well, which just means that you still have a network, but there's a nationwide network. And so you have lots of options. It's just if you stay in network, you'll pay the lesser amount. So there's some pretty big PPOs out there these days. And another characteristic of a Medicare Advantage plan, a lot of them are known for their low premiums, some $0, $20, depends on the plan. But those are the ones you'll see Joe Namath on TV talking about free. Well, it's not necessarily free. There's a zero premium. There's some that have zero premiums, but instead of a supplement, like I said, a plan F has no copays, no deductible for the supplement. An Advantage plan typically has copays or co-insurance for depending on the service that you use it for. And then they all have a max out of pocket, an annual max out of pocket, where if you have a really bad year and just have copays and copays, it can only go up to a certain amount. And this year, 2023, the max that all the plans can have as their in and out of network max is $8,300. There's a lot that have way less than that for in-network max out of pocket, anywhere from, I'd say average like 3,000, 4,000, somewhere around there. But that's the characteristic you get and the differences between a supplement and an Advantage plan. A supplement, you pay more up front. You don't have the copays on the back end. Typically, an Advantage plan, you pay less up front. You have copays depending on the plan on what that's going to be, up to your max out of pocket. So do you want to pay more up front and not have to have that question mark? Or do you want to pay less up front and then just kind of, if you have a healthy, great year, you come out ahead? So really up to your individual scenario. And then the other thing that Advantage plans are known for is their extra benefits that are built in. Not all of them, but a lot of them have dental, vision, hearing aid coverage, over-the-counter benefits, gym memberships, all those things that Medicare doesn't cover that are just extra benefits built into an Advantage plan. I'll try to move it up here. So just kind of recapping again with Medicare supplements versus Medicare Advantage. Again, in general, I like for each person I work with, I like to put together a real more detailed 2 columns of them to figure out what's going to make more sense for them, be it this one's stronger on health, this one's stronger on prescriptions, dental, all that. So, but in general, the pros of a Medicare supplement are the freedom to choose your doctor. There's no referrals necessary. You can go to anywhere that they take Medicare, which I think the latest stat was like 96% of the doctors in the country take Medicare. So comprehensive coverage, again, if you look at that Medicare and You book, it just very comprehensive coverage. Guaranteed renewable, basically that coverage itself does not really change year to year. The premiums can go up each year, but the coverage itself does not change as long as you're paying the premium. And then you can customize your prescription plan, your Part D plan, because it's a separate from your health plan. So each year you can customize your Part D prescription plan for you at open enrollment. Cons, it's a higher monthly premium. I said for a typical 65-year-old, I mean, we're looking at at least $90, $100 a month for a Plan G out there. And it kind of depends on each company. And it goes up as you get older, as you get rate increases. Cons could be that you require a separate Part D plan versus a lot of the Advantage plans build that in their plan already for no additional premium. And then no extra benefits. So no dental, no vision, like routine vision, none of the things that we listed in that as far as what Medicare doesn't cover. And then Medicare Advantage, pros and cons. Pros of a Medicare Advantage plan, lower monthly premiums in a lot of cases. Again, those ones are known for their zero premiums, maybe $20, $30, depends on the plan. You have one card because it's a bundled plan for your medical, prescriptions, dental, all that, rather than 3 separate cards. Most of them, again, include your extra benefits, like the dental, vision, over-the-counter benefits, stuff like that. Very limited health questions when changing. So basically, most Medicare Advantage plans don't ask health questions ever. So at open enrollments, you can switch to them pretty easily. Cons, network restrictions, depending, again, HMOs, PPOs. If we're looking at an Advantage plan, we want to make sure doctors are in network so we're not overpaying on anything. I'll go into yearly contracts. That just means that they can change their benefits from year to year. Higher potential out of pocket on the back end in the form of copays, up to your annual maximum benefit. And then less customization because it's just one package deal. So things to consider when you're choosing between those: your health, and how often you see doctors, specialists. Do you take a lot of prescriptions? In any of those scenarios, we need to find out how that drug coverage matches up to your particular prescriptions, whether it's a Part D plan with a supplement or it's a built into an Advantage plan. Do you travel often or live in 2 parts of the country? How do we need that network to be built out? And what's your monthly budget for insurance? Can we, afford to pay a little more upfront, or have to keep it pretty low? Again, there's all these things to consider when you're making a decision. And my goal is always to give you the facts, the pros and cons, so that you can make an educated decision on that. So yeah, hopefully I was good on time.
You were perfect.
Trying.
I guess a question, Lisa, can you talk about how when you first go on to Medicare, it's basically you can go into a supplement or an Advantage and not have to answer any health questions. Whereas if you wanted to switch from an Advantage to a Medicare supplement in the future, and maybe you've had a health issue come up, what that looks like, how that limits your options, those types of things.
Yeah, good question. So when you're first going on to Medicare, whether that's right away at 65, or if you're, delaying till you've lost your employer coverage and you get Medicare, specifically Part B is that trigger. Then you're in what's called your initial enrollment period, and there's no medical questions. You can get whatever kind of supplement, Advantage plan you want, no medical questions asked, to take effect right away with your Medicare. After that, though, if you want to, switch later on down the road or go back and forth, usually you can. An Advantage plan, you have to wait till open enrollment, which is October 15th through December 7th. And there's never medical questions with switching to an Advantage plan or switching from Advantage plan to Advantage plan. They don't ask medical questions. Where we can come into some hurdles is specifically with a Medicare supplement. And that's after your initial enrollment period. And if you want to switch to another supplement to get a lower rate, or if you want to go from an Advantage plan to a supplement, a lot of the insurance companies can ask medical questions. In Illinois, we have one that's called a guarantee issue that doesn't. They're a little higher premium because of that. But in Wisconsin, I know there's none. So in order to get a different supplement or maybe a brand new one, there could be some hurdles just depending on medical questions. They're all a little different. That's half of my job right there, seeing what we can and can't do based off of medical questions. It's not like a life insurance policy where you have to do the blood draw and the physical and all that. It truly is just questions. But again, we want to make sure up front to see if that's worth switching or not.
Mm-hmm. Good. Any other questions from anybody? I know we've had a couple come in through the Q&A. I've tried to ask those as we went along, so you can always pop those in there. We will have Louisa's contact info. We have it. If any of you would like to give us a call, we can get it to you for sure. Because we are coming up on that open enrollment time frame. Obviously, like you said, October 15th through December 7th for people that are on Advantage plans that want to review them, or if you want to switch in or out of those, you have to do that now. Otherwise, I guess, Lisa, talk about how Medicare supplements specifically are standardized across the board. And maybe I'm stealing your thunder when they get in front of you, but
Oh, great question. So I'm just not used to just talking at people. I'm used to having a conversation. So this is great. So the supplements being standardized. So for instance, I said, really one of the most popular ones right now is Plan G, which for anybody who turns 65 as of 2020 and beyond, that's the fullest coverage they can get, meaning there's no co-pays. Your deductible for Medicare is $226. So all the major companies offer that same coverage. Same across the board. It's just that they can differ in their premiums. So, and they're all over the place. It just depends on how that company came up with that premium actuarially, So it's, the other part of my job besides explaining what is Medicare, what are your options, is then shopping around later and seeing if we can do better on that premium for supplements. Because again, if you want to stick with that same coverage, Plan G, for instance, all the companies sell that same coverage. It's just a matter of, all right, can you save some money? Because after each year, they do get rate increases, much like a home and auto insurance or something like that. So after being on that plan for 5, 6, 7 years, I just had someone who's been on one for 15 years and was way overpaying. It just makes sense to review and see if we can get that same coverage for a lower premium.
We did get a question come through, and I'll let you answer this, Louisa, and we can jump in if we need to. But if a spouse is still working full-time and has spousal insurance, is it best to use the company insurance, or should the spouse that is 65 take Medicare?
That's a good question. That is situational, really. I'm happy to go over and show people what would it cost to get Medicare and some, supplemental insurance with that. And we can compare it to what you're being offered through your employer plan. Some people pay $50 a month and it's like awesome coverage. And we're not going to beat that because your Medicare Part B premium is $164.90 a month, that baseline. But other people pay $1,000 a month and have a $5,000 deductible, and it probably makes sense to definitely look at Medicare. So it's very situational, and it's just a matter of looking at what you have, comparing the premium and the benefits you have to that with what are you going to pay when you go into Medicare, what are the supplemental options that will fit you, what will that all cost together. So, and I'm happy to go through that.
Yeah, it's one of our favorite answers to questions, is that it depends.
Yeah.
So much is situational in this business, obviously. So
yeah.
Louisa, I have a question. You kind of already covered this, but just to reiterate, with an Advantage plan, dental, vision, and hearing, or is that is standard in some of those plans, or that can be added, or it depends on the plan, or can you reiterate that again, please?
Good question. So the technical answer is it depends on the plan, but the majority of the competitive plans out there have those just in their standard. You're not really competitive if you don't have that stuff built in. No. A lot of them I go to these trainings each summer in preparation for open enrollment, and a lot of it is just parading in front of us like, oh, we've added this dental, or we've bumped this benefit up, and just kind of trying to one up each other, which I like. I'd rather them get better than get worse. So
All right. Anyone else have any other questions for Louisa here? Like I said, you can use the Q&A. You can push the raise hand button. Oh, one just came through. I'm a state of Wisconsin retiree and on Social Security, so I receive my card automatically, and I realize my Medicare plan is the first one and the state will cover the rest. Do I need both A and B? So this sounds like a pretty plan specific question. It would be, correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, but it would be if the state of Wisconsin requires you to be on Medicare A and B as your primary, and then the state covers the rest, or is it the state just takes place of Medicare? That's going to be a plan specific question, correct?
Yeah, that would.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we can't give you a straight answer. We'd have to look directly at your state of Wisconsin retiree insurance.
Yeah. Feel free to email me, and I can look into that.
Yeah, we'll get you your email number or her email here, Jeanette, and that way we can get that over to you and she can look into it for you. Because yeah, it all depends on how the plan's set up. I'll say most private employers require you to get on Medicare A and B, and then their retiree insurance as a supplement, but because it's a state of Wisconsin, I'm not sure if that's the case in this scenario. So we'll look into it and go to that. So, Louisa, why don't you go ahead and give them your email address if that's okay?
Sure. I actually should have put this, wrote this out on here, but it is Louisa, Louisa at northernstaradvisors.com. I can actually, see if I can do this. Yeah. Used to, so that's the spelling of my name. I should have wrote that out on one of these pages here. Okay, and it's at the Northern Star Advisors. Advisors is with an ORS. Yeah, I really like diving into some of these questions. That's kind of the nerd in me. I was a math tutor for 6 years prior to getting into insurance, and I just really like the problem solving aspect and kind of one-on-one just educational part of it. So I'd love to find some answers to your questions.
Awesome. All right. Anything else for Louisa while we've got her here? All right. Well, as I said, folks, we will get this posted on our website here. Probably give us a week or so if you want to go back and review this. But obviously, like we said, feel free to reach out to Louisa with any one-on-one questions that you have. And then that will. Oh, sorry, we just had another question come through. It's Louisa at northernstaradvisors.com, correct? There's no the.
Yep. I was trying to do with my mouse and I don't have my touchscreen on this one. So I was like, well, let's shorten this. northernstaradvisors.com. Yep.
I'll type.
Louisa, do you want to type that in the chat or something? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. I should have done that. Oh, there we go.
So now I think we've got it in there. It should be good now.
Through.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Louisa just put her email in the chat. But like I said, feel free to reach out to us. We can definitely get you connected with Louisa. We've been very, very pleased with her work with us over the years. As she said, it's been pretty much all the 10 years. I think it's been working closely with a lot of our clients. So we've had great relationship with her over the years. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. This has been another Klaas webinar. We hope you guys enjoy these. We'll be doing another couple here in the fall. One is estate planning, I know, is coming up soon. So you'll be seeing an invite for that in the near future as well. But thanks again for joining us, and we will see you guys on the next one. Thanks again, Louisa.
Thanks, Louisa. Good work.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.